Welcome to the Salt Strong Fishing Podcast. Salt Strong has been helping saltwater anglers catch more fish in less time for 10 years and is now the largest and most trusted saltwater fishing community in America. If you want to catch more saltwater fish, then keep listening. If you want to speed up your fish catching results even faster, then join the private insider community at saltstrong.com. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Spiritual warfare. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, back again with Salt Strong Unchurched. This should be a pretty interesting and fun one. It's been a little while, maybe a year, since I first did the podcast on essentially spiritual warfare. I called it the War is On, the good versus evil. And there's a lot that's happened here recently, depending on when you're listening to this. But we've had multiple murders. We've had the Charlie Kirk, obviously, was the big one that is making now worldwide news. And it's kind of tough to ignore the fact there might be some sort of spiritual warfare going on, this good versus evil. And so I went to church last Sunday, really just to see what they were going to say about it. And I ended up asking some of my friends who go to different churches, like, hey, did they bring up the Charlie Kirk thing? And a couple of them said yes, and a couple of them said no. I was like, well, what a shame. What an opportunity to talk about what's happening out there in this good versus evil and how just separated we've become. In the podcast prior to this one, I mentioned the word angels and demons. And part of the interview of this, used to be an atheist for the majority of his life and ended up becoming a Christian. The more he dove into the Bible, into the word, and kind of he was trying to prove that he was right as an atheist. And every time he kept going down a path, he's like, man, I'm actually not right. Like everything I've been thinking is actually wrong. And there's now more proof that Jesus not only was real, but that he was the Savior and God's son. Like he's like, I literally, it's like irrefutable evidence now at this point. And obviously this guy's now gone on to write books, and Carlson Tucker interviewed him. And if you want to go listen to that one, it's a great podcast. So anyhow, one thing that he mentioned, this ex-atheist in his book and also in the interview, was then, this is straight from the Bible, that once you have accepted Jesus Christ into your life, like filled with the Holy Spirit, that demons can't enter your body. Now, that doesn't mean Satan can't tempt you. That doesn't mean Satan can't distract you and try to do everything possible to get your eyes off of the goal, to get your eyes off of Jesus and doing the right thing and having good morals and all that stuff. That will happen for sure. It's happened to all of us. Anyone who's a Christian, that will certainly happen, will probably continue to happen. And usually the more impact you're doing, the more it drives Satan nuts, and he wants to try to find ways to distract you. But the good news is it means he can't actually enter your soul and turn you completely evil, like we're seeing with some of these people, where it just doesn't even make sense why someone would just kill someone who they've never even met, or maybe you've never even spoken to, right? I'm not talking about just Charlie Kirk. I'm talking about the countless deaths that have happened in schools, the young girl, the Ukrainian girl in the subway. I mean, you guys have probably seen the video. She didn't even say a word to these people. It wasn't like, she had been talking smack. And even then, still, no one deserves to die for talking smack in the subway. But she didn't say a word. She was literally minding her own business and 100% got killed because of her color. And that person, I truly do believe, and I don't care what side of the fence they're on, in politics and all that, I really do believe that person was evil, like literally that Satan it had entered his body. And I'll be honest, I didn't believe any of that stuff until I went to Uganda. I did a mission trip in my late 20s to Uganda, and it was one of those life-changing things that it's tough to explain what happened, but I will explain one of the things that happened. So one of the days we were in, and this is in the middle of the summer, by the way, in Kampala, Uganda. When people say hot like Africa, it was in Africa, and it was hot as Hades. It was brutal, blistering hot. They don't have air conditioning there in this, village that we're in, but they had a little tent and did the best they could. So, and everyone dresses up. They only have one nice pair of clothes. Many of them don't even have shoes, but everyone's wearing their nicest things. So we're dressed up. I'm just sweating profusely, and I'm on one of the aisles We're listening to this pastor talk, and I'm guessing 250, 300 people in there. So it's a pretty big congregation for where they were. And all of a sudden, this lady from the back, just you could hear her kind of shriek this. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, just imagine like a satanic shriek. And she starts running, like sprinting up this aisle to come like attack and try to kill this pastor. It was the craziest thing. And I'm on the aisle. I'm like, this whole thing happened so fast. I'm like, what do I do? And obviously they had seen this kind of stuff before. They had guys who were essentially like bodyguards prepared for it. And before she even got to me in the aisle, they had already tackled her and had her on the ground. And I'm less than 10 feet away. I'm watching this stuff. I'll never forget it. And this lady is like, oh, wasn't foaming at the mouth, but pretty close to it. Like, bubbles coming out her mouth and lips just like trembling and quivering. Her eyes just as wide open as could be. Something was wrong with this lady. Obviously, you don't just do that in the middle of a church service. Can you imagine if you've been in church and seeing some lady screaming and trying to kill the pastor? And turns out like she literally had a demon inside of her, and they cast this demon out through prayer. Everyone's on, sitting on top of her. They're really having like almost like shackle her down with these large guys holding down her arms, her legs. She's like convulsing, and all of a sudden this demon spirit thing leaves her. I didn't see it. I love to say I did. I did not see anything like actually fly out. But something was in this lady, and all of a sudden she went to 100% peace, like it had never happened. And she doesn't remember any of it. Like bizarre. I mean, the stuff that you hear about in the Bible, I mean, we got to see that. And, from talking to some of the locals there, because we were there for, I guess, 10 days, this is something that's happened a lot. And it happens in a lot of these places where Christianity hasn't really been a thing and is now becoming a thing. And there are a lot of people who don't like Christians or who want to kill Christians. I mean, you're not even supposed to really go out there and, say that you're a Christian. It's not a very popular thing in some of these countries. And for some of these countries that are having these big movements, there is this massive increase of people who are being filled with these demons, like satanic beings, and going after people. It's bizarre. I mean, it's talked about in the Bible, right? Where, he throws the demons out of people, or takes the demons out of people and puts them in a pig and jump off a cliff. I mean, this is not something that is new in the Bible. It's almost assumed like, that's just, it is what it is. Of course, that's a thing. They didn't have to go explain it in the Bible because everyone had seen it then. And, here in America, we're pretty young in general and hadn't seen that kind of stuff. So anyhow, I've seen that kind of stuff. It was the wildest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I will never forget it as long as I'm alive. And that made me believe, right? It wasn't an act. I mean, you could see in this lady's face and her being and how much she was just shaking and trembling and doesn't remember any of it, that something spiritual was going on there. And there's something spiritual just going on there in Kampala, Uganda. There are some massive evil forces and some good forces going against each other, which brings me back to where we are. And I'm going to read this email. I'm on a bunch of different email lists, and I like to kind of get all sides of it. And this guy, Nick Freitas, he is a state representative, and this was what he said in an email here to essentially his state. And I don't even know what state he's in, honestly. It was just part of this newsletter. But this hit me so hard because I think what I'm about to read to you is going to probably determine like where we go next with all this, like what's going to happen. And I think he stated it perfectly. So this is his quote that he sent out as a state representative. Nick Freitas, Freitas. I am told that as a state representative, this is the moment where I'm supposed to express my heartfelt condolences and then stand in solidarity with those on the other side of the aisle as we condemn political violence and stand unified as one people. But we aren't one people, are we? The truth is that we haven't been one people for some time now, and there is really no point in pretending anymore if there ever was. We are two very different peoples. We may occupy the same piece of geography, but that is where the similarities seem to abruptly end. I convinced myself for a long time that whenever the left called me a racist, a bigot, a sexist, a fascist, a threat to democracy, for even the most innocent of disagreements, that it was simply hyperbolic rhetoric done for effect. And now the effect is a widow and 2 orphan children because the left couldn't bear the thought of a peaceful man debating them and winning. I don't think they realize it yet, but murdering Charlie is going to be remembered as the day where we finally woke up to what this fight really is. It is not a civil dispute among fellow countrymen. It is a war between diametrically opposed worldviews which cannot peacefully coexist with one another. One side will win and one side will lose. Charlie tried to win that fight through argumentation, through discussion, through peaceful resolution of differences, and the other side murdered him. Not because he was extreme or inciting violence or any other hyperbolic slur they hurled at him. They murdered him because he was effective, because he was unafraid, because he inspired others and made them feel like they had a voice and that they were not alone. And he did it at the very institutions which have fomented so much hatred towards conservatives and Christians. I don't want to stand in solidarity with the other side of the aisle. I want to defeat you. I want to defeat the godless ideology that kills babies in the womb, sterilizes confused children, turns our cities into cesspools of degeneracy and lawlessness, and the ones that murdered Charlie Kirk. Social media is aflame right now with the leftist celebration of Charlie's death. I wonder if any of them understand what has really just happened. If there is a Yamamoto somewhere in their mist warning that all they have done is awoken a sleeping giant, I doubt it. I think they gave up so much introspection and self-awareness long ago. I don't know exactly what will happen next. I just know that it won't be the same as what happened in the past. There will be thoughts and prayers. Charlie would have wanted prayers, not for himself, but for those left behind and for the country that he loved. But then there will be a reckoning. My Christian faith requires me to love my enemies and pray for those who curse me. It does not require me to stand idly by the midst of savagery and barbarism. Quite the opposite. So every time that I feel tired, every time I feel discouraged or overwhelmed, I'm going to watch the video of a good man being murdered in Utah. I will force myself to watch it, and then I will return to the work of destroying the evil ideology responsible for that and so much more. Rest with God. Rest with God, Charlie. Your fight is over. Whew. Sorry, that was long and very, very powerful. And the only thing I would change about it is that whole left versus right. I do think that's what's happening in the flesh. But, what I loved about the church service, what I was in, he made it very clear, guys, this is not a fight of the flesh. And this is really the whole message of this Unchurched, that this is a way bigger deal, right? We're talking about evil, like legit evil, Satan versus God versus Jesus. We're talking about good versus evil, not just the flesh. And yes, sometimes it takes the form of a flesh, like the person I mentioned in Uganda, like maybe the crazies who were going and just shooting innocent people, right? I mean, that is obviously evil, but we can't just hate each other. I don't think that is the answer. I don't think if Jesus came down right now and was sitting next to you, like, yeah, man, that's it. Like, you just got to bash them all you can and slur more things back at them. I don't really think that's the answer. I do think, as Nick pointed out, yeah, this is going to be a turning moment. And I do think there is going to come a time, just like in the Bible, we're going to have to put a line in the sand and say, we've had enough. As Christians, as people who are not going to condone this evilness, regardless, left, right, all that stuff doesn't even matter. And I don't even talk about presidents or the political stuff. It's just what's inside of us. What is God calling you to do with all this? Is he, calling you to be afraid and say, yeah, I don't even want to address this? Or is he calling us to be bolder than ever before? And for me, it got me fired up, just like it did Nick. I was like, I want to be bolder than ever before. I do think this is going to be good versus evil. And we need all of the great people who do believe that our country is in trouble. And it could go downhill really, really quickly if we continue to just keep ignoring this and just kind of papering over it and moving on to the next thing. I don't want to see more innocent people die. I mean, can you imagine if it was your family or maybe you have been impacted by it? It's horrible. I don't think that's really what our whole democracy, why we started was to not let government, have too much control, which we're slowly bringing that back. But two, innocent people shouldn't die. Like, that's been a big part of America, that we just don't condone letting innocent people just get killed for the sake of being killed. And here we are. This stuff seems to be happening left and right. And I know we hear about it more because of social media, but I don't know. I'm rambling on, but it drives me absolutely crazy. And so you will probably continue to hear more of these podcasts about this good versus evil, because I think this is just the beginning, unfortunately. I think there will become, the quote said from Nick, a day of reckoning, whether it's Jesus coming back or us finally just having to put our foot down and say, guys, this is enough, and just not tolerating this kind of stuff. Anyhow, stay tuned. I think the thing for all of us to do is just to pray. And that was a really good message that we heard in church. Was one is to pray every day, every morning, every night, to pray to God, to give you strength, to give you courage, that, we already know what the end of the story is. We know that God wins, but just gives us strength to get through the battles or the war or whatever ends up happening. And number two, to unite, to be with people who are like you, right? To be with other Christ-like people, whether that's going to church or, being in a fishing club around good people, whatever it is, where you hang out and you like to hang out with good people, do that. That is what we're called to do, is have relationships with people, especially people who are godly and will only lift you up. And the third part, which I loved in the pastor's message, was to be the salt. Right? To be the salt and the light. And when he talked about being the salt, he's like, what should be coming out of your mouth is positive. He's like, every time. And he's like, trust me, there's been so many things that as a pastor, I've seen on social media about myself, about Charlie Kirk, about all this, where I wanted to just give them the peace of my mind. And I probably could have killed them with my words, because I know way more about the Bible and some of these people who are just complete keyboard warriors. But he's like, you know what? It hit me. He's like, God basically said to me, don't waste your energy. I am going to need you in every little, even keystroke to every piece of your imagination or what you're going to say that's negative, just trying to talk to knuckleheads who might literally be filled with Satan. It is a waste of your time. Instead, take that same moment and do good things. Speak greatness. Speak of God. Speak of light. Be the salt. He's like, you want to be so salty in terms of speaking the good word that people want to be around you, right? Instead of being the person who's just blasting others because of something you disagree with on social media. So those are a couple of my big to-dos, because I've had plenty here, especially the last couple of weeks, where I have just wanted to go in there and roast someone. And I have that same feeling, like, this is not what God, if Jesus was sitting next to me, like, what would Jesus do, right? He would not say, oh yeah, you tell him, you got him real good. Like, it doesn't help. Some of these people are so whacked, and so literally, because they haven't accepted God, Jesus Christ, and because they're not filled with the Holy Spirit, they literally might be filled completely with demonic, just horrible stuff with Satan. So anyhow, pray, be around great people, and be the salt, be strong. And if you have any questions, thoughts, you want a prayer request from me, I love hearing from you guys. Joe@saltstrong.com. And if you guys any other thoughts or questions on this, I know I'm not perfect. These are just my random thoughts as I kind of get fired up throughout the week reading this stuff and praying on it myself. I'm always asking God, how do you want to use me through all this? And this is obviously one of my platforms where I'm able to go speak just on my own behalf. This is not the views of Salt Strong or any of its affiliates. This is just Joe Simons coming to you on this Unchurched podcast. So love you guys, and I will talk to you on the next episode.
Want more fishing tips, shortcuts, and tools so you can catch more fish per trip? Then head over to saltstrong.com now and join the movement. Tight lines, and thanks for listening.